growth area map, which I'll show you next. Current service areas, these are the areas that can readily be served by community facilities and services. You don't want to support projects that are way out of your city limits when you can't adequately support them with water and sewer. Or roads, by that means. Then there's future service areas, basically the next steps of how you can serve those different areas, and then the growth management goals and policies. Here's a priority growth area map, and all of these maps are in your packet too, so I don't expect you to really be able to look at these. It includes the service areas, both current and future, and then beyond planned service areas. Most of them are based on watersheds. Usually we try to do sewer and water, gravity flow, and such, having to deal with ridge lines and such, being able to service some of these areas. Plan also goes into sections with specific goals and strategies about residential land uses, low density, and then medium and high density land uses. And each of these sections has goals and strategies for each. Talks about transitioning uses, connectivity, things like that. And then for the non-residential land uses, we have commercial, office, business parks and recreation and open space, and public and semi-public land uses. Speaking of land uses, here's our future land use map. This is what is sometimes will be referred to as a blob map. It has blobs of color. It's pretty general. This one is something we've been struggling with a little bit. It's slightly out of date. It doesn't take into consideration intermodal growth around there, some other different things that have come up in the past few years since this plan was adopted in 2008, and a lot has changed since then. And so we are struggling a little bit with using this map to review projects, but working on getting that new comprehensive plan process going, and getting a more up-to-date comprehensive plan that's going to work better for the community. And then here's a development plan map. A little different from the last one. Not only does it have the future land uses, but it's got public and semi-public uses identified on there, with the addition of the road classifications. Those are on the previous map, and then this has the proposed parks also. So it just kind of gives you a more holistic picture of the community as far as not just land use, but some of those services and amenities that the city would look into. On to the subdivision regulations, which is Chapter 17 of the City Code. Purpose of the subdivision regulations: it creates standards for platting and subdividing of land. It allows for the creation of blocks and lots, and dedication of road right-of-way, dedication of easements. Really, it's the foundation of the city. You start with laying out the street and road network, getting utility easements in place so that we can service those properties. It's really that foundation for the place to start for the actual development. Results in efficient street patterns and connectivity. We can make sure that you can get to where you're going or where you need to go. That, you know, as Mike talked about, the transportation system and having access to those different roads or minimal access to different roads. Make appropriately sized and shaped lots. You don't want really odd shaped lots. It sometimes makes them hard to develop. And then again, the access. Chapter 1705 is a statement of intent and definitions. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of some of these just because it's technical and dry. This section talks about the procedure, about properties needing to be platted to get building permits. It does offer some exceptions to that rule. And then it outlines the process for platting. Preliminary plats and final plats. You'll actually see a preliminary plat at your November meeting.
Excuse me, can I just comment for a second?
Yes.
So this bullet here that says property shall be platted for building permit, that's pretty significant because the city has a fee for plats, charges an excise tax, 20 cents per square foot. So if someone has a large piece of property kind of in an edge area and they want to sell it to someone who wants to build a house on it, if it has not been platted, it's not part of the subdivision plat, they would be required to plat it and pay that excise tax. So the process is somewhat difficult. Has to get plat approved, but also paying 20 cents per square foot on the ground can be prohibitive to someone trying to do that. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I'm just pointing that out. It's kind of a big deal for some people.
And well, there's a section about excise tax. It's very common to have some sort of impact fees or taxes. I know recently when we went to the American Planning Association conference, Olathe spoke about theirs. Who else? Lenexa spoke about theirs. There's different ways to do it. They have one for platting, some have them for parks, some have them for a variety of different things. So it's not something out of the ordinary. Back to the processes, we have the preliminary and final plat, minor subdivision, which is basically a combination of preliminary and final plat, which is offered in certain situations if you're platting smaller lots under a specific number. I think it's 3. And then a lot split, which if you have a large lot and you want to split it into 2, there's that opportunity also. The next chapter talks about standards for platting, street arrangement, drainage, dead-end streets and cul-de-sacs, block lengths, pedestrian walkways, street right-of-way standards, lot arrangements and sizes. It's all the technical details of laying out property and streets and lots and such. The master landscape and screening plan, Mike touched a little bit about this. It really affects our R1 and R2 districts, which are single-family and duplex type of zoning districts. It's mitigating. What it is it takes effect for any residential properties that back up, or you could technically call them double fronting, where they have their front yards on a local street and then their backyards back up to, I think it's arterials, along arterial streets. It's a master landscaping plan that puts landscaping, fences, walls, berms along the street so that those residents aren't getting impact from that larger street. And also, then the street isn't getting the impacts of having people put 6-foot fences along the corridor so it looks like a tunnel. It's kind of a win-win for both sides, for the street users and for the residences.